Have you ever walked into a room of a person that you love and seen them slumped over, looking extremely uncomfortable, and their neck is like 90 degrees, and you can tell they just really should not be in that position? Today's episode, we are going to talk to Janice from Tausie Pillows, which is the best neck pillow for people living with dementia. And you need to listen to the end of the episode because she gives the listeners of this program a tremendous gift and a code for a Tausie pillow, which is going to be the first thing that I buy for myself after recording today's episode. And if I resonate with you, I invite you to come to my next free workshop, which you can find the link in the show notes below. And if you really are struggling as a family caregiver of somebody living with dementia, I want you to hop on and go look for the Ask the Dementia Coach segment where you can actually come onto this program and we can do a coaching session so I can help you through this process. So check out today's episode. Have you recently found out someone you love has dementia? Struggling to wrap your head around how to be a Christian caregiver? Searching for answers by joining countless Facebook groups but find them toxic? Learning how to cope with dementia feels difficult, but learning a Christian caregiving worldview can be easy. Hey, brother and sister in Christ, I'm Lizette, occupational therapist, pastor's wife turned dementia coach, and a daughter of dementia. In this podcast, you will learn the truth that the way to make dementia care easy is your faith. Knowing that a loving God has decreed this hard providence in your life makes all the difference. Here you will gain skills. You will be challenged by what God says in His Word about caregiving, and you will learn exactly what dementia is and is not. Find clarity and certainty from God's Word so you have perseverance for this journey. Use science-backed solutions and biblical principles to redeem your time. Praying this blesses you as we dive into dementia from a Christian perspective. Let's glorify God despite dementia. How many times have you walked into the room and found the person that you're helping sitting in a recliner slumped over 90 degrees? Well, today's episode 111, we are going to talk to Janice about the best neck pillow and how she came about designing it for her father who was living with dementia. So, Janice, welcome to today's episode of Dementia Caregiving for Families.
Oh, thank you for having me, Lizette. And we are 111?
Well, yes, it's 111, but there's a backstory to that. So I had a program for about a year that I had 53 other episodes,
Uh-huh.
and then I stopped it. And then when I took it up again, I just started at number 54.
I love it. I love it. And 111, 1111, I love all those numbers when I see those ones. So I feel really lucky to be on your show and to be on the 111th episode. So thank you for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome. I'm super excited that you're here. Part of what I'd love to try to do with people, for the people who are listening, is bring on products and other, not just listening to me ramble about what's up in my head, as interesting as that can be at times, but to bring products that are practical solutions to practical problems. That's one of the big things that this podcast is about, is solving practical problems. So I know you from several different circles that we're both in. And even though I know what the name is, I'm always afraid to say it out loud.
Oh,
Tausie.
Tausie.
Tausie
Yes.
Pillow. So Janice started her company So I wanted her to tell us a little bit about her business and why she started it.
Oh, thank you so much. So Tausie is from Tausie Brands, which means caring for. And it's derived from a Samoan word, tausimo. And when I was working on the naming of my business, it was really important for me to evoke that idea that we care for each other.
Mhm.
And as you mentioned in the intro, which is Tausie is something I invented for my dad because when I went to visit him in his memory care unit,
Mhm.
and I live in Oregon and my dad was in Texas. So I traveled to see him and I saw him slumped over in his geriatric chair. Now, for all your listeners at home and all your listeners here, we know that look when somebody is slumped over.
Mhm.
And I knew I couldn't do anything for his end of life experience. We are all going to have that. And what struck me was that he looked really uncomfortable. And I've always been a pillow tweaker and fluffer in my family. So when my kids were sick, I would be like, give me 30 seconds to fix your pillows. I'm like, no, mom. And I'm like, give me 10 seconds. I would negotiate. I'm like, can I just please just fluff your pillows? Because you look so uncomfortable. And so I would get them down to like 5 seconds that I had to fix pillows. And then they would go into it and be like, oh, that was comfortable. So with my dad, I saw his bed pillow had slipped down behind his back. So I grabbed a throw pillow that was in his room, put that behind his head, and that pronated him forward, pushed his head forward. And I'm like, that's not comfortable. And he was still asleep. And so then I took a travel pillow that was in my sister's car and I put that around his neck, thinking, we've seen it online. We see people
Mhm.
on social media, they put the travel pillows around their loved ones. And that woke up my dad. He hugged me. He pulled that thing off his neck and his pillows fell on the floor. The caregiver came by, picked them up, put them behind his head, and I looked at the floor and the floor was dirty. And I was like, there's got to be something that supports his head and neck, keeps him upright, and straps to the chair so it does not fall to the floor that could potentially be dirty. I'm like, that's not dignified. And,
Mhm.
and I felt like he deserved, even though he didn't know the floor was dirty, I felt that he deserved to not have the dirt touch his head. It's like the least I could do. And
Right.
so I tried to find something. And I went home to my mom's place. I searched on Amazon. I searched on Alibaba. I was obsessed till 3:30 in the morning and I could not find anything. I found neck rolls that go behind your head and strap.
Mhm.
But that we all know your head still falls from side to side because your head is 10 pounds. And if you're a back sleeper like I am, you will wake up at night because your head will have fallen to the side and then you flip. So anyway, my long story, I came back to Oregon and I took apart my travel pillows and I just laid out what my comfort zone would be. And then I was like, I don't want to make a pillow. We don't need more pillows in our closets because
Mhm.
clearly I had a lot of pillows so I could cut them up. And so I was like, you know what? Why not really make a pillowcase? So nobody has to get used to a different pillow density. So my dad could have his favorite bed pillow that could strap to a chair. And now he doesn't have to get used to something else, but he has supportive bars that go behind your neck and goes to on the sides of your head. So for those who are listening, imagine a U shape, and that's what my foam insert is, a U-shaped foam insert. And it goes behind your head and neck and supports your head and neck in an upright position. So your head is not trapped, nothing's around your neck, but your head is supported when it naturally does that tilt to the side before the
Mhm.
neck slump and roll, as we all see. First you slump over, then your neck rolls down, and then you get a crick in your neck.
Yeah.
So that's how it all started.
Wow. That is amazing. Did you know that caring for a person with dementia doesn't have to be this hard? If you are struggling and you would like to join our next free workshop, I invite you to walk away with science-backed dementia caregiving skills that many professionals don't even know after attending this free workshop. If you'd like to register, message me the word workshop on Instagram or check out the link in the show notes below. That really is amazing. So I know that you can use it for a lot of different purposes. So it started out for the neck.
Correct.
And then?
And then it's, well, not only is it great for necks, because let's just say in my research of my product, 80% of seniors have head and neck pain.
Yeah.
And 80% of seniors say they don't want medical intervention. So why not, and that pain comes from falling asleep in an uncomfortable position. So when I developed it, it was initially just for the head and neck, and I'm like strapped to the chair. And then I wound up having some back issues. And so for those who are listening, I'm going to demonstrate on my office chair here where I have Tausie strapped to my office chair for back support. So it's positioned exactly where I need it. Sometimes I have higher back pain, so I lift it up on the back of my chair and strap it in. Right now, I've been reading all weekend, so it's on my lower back. And every Tausie comes with a mini bonus pillow. The reason why is because when I was developing it, I'm like, well, here I have a U-shaped foam that goes behind your head and neck. I'm like, well, what am I going to put in the middle? And the foam is different heights on the bottom versus the sides. So I was like, well, let me put it, because I don't want to be wasteful of the foam that I was cutting up, use the square and go in the middle of it. And it's depressed enough, it's shallow enough that if you use the foam in it for more of an upright position, if somebody's watching a movie, or if your loved one is wanting to engage in conversation and not be so far back, they can still fall asleep and your head would be caught on the side. Now, right now it's on my chair and I do acupressure. I rotate my mini bonus pillow. We're at 90 degrees. So I can have acupressure on my lower back from bending over and picking up those weeds. And you can use it. You can even use the mini bonus pillow, roll that up and put that behind your head if you wanted a different support system.
So immediately the first thing, so everybody knows, or most people know, that I am actually an occupational therapist by background. As you're showing me the pillow to the people who are listening, when you have somebody who has a very kyphotic or crooked back, where their back is bent, they kind of have a hunchback up at the top. The way the Tausie is built is you can actually then put it around somebody's back and give them a little bit more support on the sides, but have space for the bumped out part of their back so that they don't get pressure on their back.
I love that.
See?
I love that. What is it called? Kyphotic?
Kyphosis, which is just the bent section of the back.
Kyphosis. I want to remember that. Oh,
I'll send it to you.
Please,
I will send it to you.
Yeah.
So everybody, most people have seen or heard of the Hunchback of Notre Dame. So somebody who has a hunched back has a high up kyphosis. Now people have kyphosis all the way through their spine. And when your spine is crooked side to side, that's scoliosis. When your spine is crooked front to back, that's a kyphosis.
Oh, fascinating.
So when you have a loved one, if you have a loved one who has a bent back, you could put it lower down and support, because that's something that happens a lot with people who have a crooked back,
right?
Is they get pressure on the spine.
I can see that
from just sitting in anything where their back is pushing up against the chair,
and so that would be more comfortable and give them that. And they could take out the mini bonus pillow.
They can take the mini bonus out, and they could even make other little rolls of washcloths or whatever inside it to protect that area, to make it more comfortable. So there's another application for you for your
thank you.
Tausie pillow.
For dementia, I learn a lot.
Oh, I'm telling you, it's one of my biggest challenges is just focus, Lizette. Just focus. Just
No.
do the thing. I just see a lot of opportunity with a lot of different things. So I know that you earlier on when we got onto the program, you said that you've never technically been a caregiver, even though I would disagree. You were a caregiver. You were just not a providing the 24-hour care. You were a caregiver to your dad. You just were doing caregiving in a different way. You were being his advocate and trying to find ways to keep
Uh,
him comfortable. But in your mind, you didn't identify as a caregiver, but you are in the caregiving space. Tell people how you got into the caregiving space.
Wow, that's a interesting question. You know what? I have to say, it goes back to my early career path. I was 24 years old, and taking you way back, you guys, for listening in. I'm in my 50s now. So at 24, I worked at a senior facility where we had independent residents, and we had a nursing floor, and we had dementia and assisted living. And I ran their volunteer program and did events, and my volunteers were all people who were at least 60 years older than me. And I learned very quickly on in my career that when you pay people with a thank you, that was their paycheck, you really learn um, firsthand, like how you treat and interact with people is vital. And
Mhm.
so I learned really great skills. And plus, all my mentors were people who had run companies, were judges, were senators. You know, these are people who like had lived life, and I just soaked up their information. So it was a wonderful, almost an ipso facto business school that I went to with these people. And so I've always loved working in the senior space. And so I did that for almost 15 years of my career of opening up volunteer programs up and down the coast of California. And then when we moved to Ohio, opening up a volunteer program after a friend of mine had passed on in a care community, I offered to volunteer there because I wanted to give back. And they didn't have a volunteer program. And I heard myself saying, do you want me to start one?
I hear you. I hear you.
Yeah. So I got back into it, and then I wound up pivoting from that job to managing a senior independent living facility in Ohio.
So when you were, I know from our one of our conversations that you said your dad never actually benefited from the pillow that you made from this product. Um,
No.
do you have some other examples or cases of people that you've worked with that you've solved some really unique problems for using the Tausi pillow?
Really great question. Well, with my dad, with his dementia, as you know, that sometimes with talking with people with dementia, when you draw back on memories, they're able to re-engage, and you feel like
Mhm.
you've got a great conversation
Connection.
happening. So every week I would FaceTime with him about my business, and he was a businessman, so he was able to really be instrumental in saying, "Oh, I like that idea," or "I don't like that. This, have you thought about this?" And so we
Oh, I
actually
love
had
it.
business discussions. And so my first prototype was not effective. So I couldn't send it to him. And for my second one, which was great, he had passed on.
Mhm,
So I did do focus groups around Oregon, and I brought it to care communities, and I worked with this gentleman named Phil Fogg, who was instrumental with Marquee Homes and ran that, was the CEO of that. And they're a large facility here. And he was really a kind mentor while I was working on building Tausie. So he allowed me to have focus groups within their facilities. I
mhm,
actually really went to bring it around for people to tell me why it's not going to work.
mhm.
And because I knew the heavy lift to get a product out there and to have a product that you have to explain. It's a pillowcase. Like, whoever reinvented the pillowcase, you know? I was like, okay, this is heavy. So everybody who tried it had the exact same response. It was like, oh, I need this. And so those focus groups led me to being part of my city's 50 plus advisory board for my mayor. And then I started, we didn't have a budget, and I was like, well, we need to do something for our senior community. And so I launched a citywide resource fair to connect seniors with products and companies.
Mhm.
And I've got our mayor there and our legislators, and so that was a really great event. And that's where I also brought Tausi. I'm like, to get customer feedback. Is this a possible, I just had prototypes. Is this a possibility? And I just kept getting, confirmation that this really works for back, for neck. One of my customers used it on Safari as a donut because while she was on Safari, she bruised her tailbone on the Jeep. And so she's like, she could either, that was early on in her trip, and she thought I could either stay in the lodge and not see anything,
No.
right? But she paid so much money. And so she said, I've got Tausi that I traveled with because it's great on an airplane. So she used it as a donut and she sat on Tausi and was able to continue her journey.
So I want to circle back to something you said right at the beginning of this, related to the connection that you were able to make with your dad,
Mm,
related to, just, and the reason I want to touch back on that is because so many people who are family caregivers of somebody living with dementia forget to tap into the old stuff that the person would have been capable of doing. We focus so much on what they're not capable of doing, as opposed to focusing on what they still are capable of doing. Yes, it looks different for sure. But for example, one of the ladies in, well, she's a current client of mine. She had been on the cruise that I was a staff member on. And on that cruise, I actually did a presentation on how to engage people in meaningful activities. And we came back from the cruise, and then I followed up with her, and she mentioned, she's like, my husband used to be an accountant. And so she started to just give him a piece of paper and a calculator. And he would sit and gainfully be engaged
right.
in something that was a familiar activity to him when he was a younger person as an accountant, but without the pressure, right?
Uh-huh.
She's not sitting there saying, but this is wrong, you didn't add it up correctly, or who cares, it doesn't matter, the person's engaged, they're actively engaged. So when you were having that connection with your dad, it was a real connection with your dad, and he gave you valuable feedback from his background and his perspective, um, that you could still take and either decide to use or not use depending on that. But it gave you the ability to communicate for another period of time on something that was a skill that he had in his past. So I just think that is such a remarkable testimony to your relationship with your dad, because so many people would not have included him, saying he's got end stage dementia. What does he have to offer in this particular situation? So I just want to give you some, validation that that
Oh,
was truly a very special way to still connect with your dad. And what a memory you now have, that he is still a part of, even though he didn't necessarily benefit from it, he did benefit from it. He didn't benefit from the prototype, but he benefited from the communication and the conversation that you guys had.
yeah. Oh, thank you for saying that. It was really, it was a tender time, as we all know. And I have to say, I think I learned drawing on people's past strengths when my grandmother used to live with us, and she had dementia. Alzheimer's was the first time I ever heard of it when I was a 12-year-old, and she would stay at our home for about 3 months to give my aunt respite, and she would not remember who we all were, and I remember like how scary that would be. And I said to her once, and I didn't know if it was right or wrong. I didn't have any concept of that, but I just wanted to make her comfortable and happy.
Mhm.
And I just said, I don't know them either. And then And she goes, but they're nice. And I said, they are. And they have ice cream. Do you want some ice cream? And so we
Mhm.
would have ice cream, and it made her comfortable to feel that she had this person who had this shared disconnect with who these people are, just for that moment. Then another
Right.
moment she would remember us. And that's it's drawing upon people's strengths. I remember being a volunteer director early on, and I was off to get supplies for a party I was putting together. And I saw this gentleman who had a tendency to wander, and it was before the locked doors, happened in
Mhm.
facilities, and he got out. And I was like, is that Walter? And I had a volunteer with me, and she's like, I think it is. So we pulled over, and I was living in San Francisco. So Walter, I invited him into the car, and I took him shopping with us. And I guess, my 24-year-old self did not say I should bring him back immediately. My 24 self said, I gotta get this shopping done for this event. And so I took him with us, and he held the door open for us, even though it was automatic doors. Didn't matter, he held the door open. He pushed the cart. He was so happy. He put the things in the cart. He put the things on the register. He was himself because he got to do something that was a gentleman, and what felt good to him.
Mhm.
And he carried the bags, of course, and like, the lighter ones I let him carry, and the other ones were in the cart, so it was a really beautiful way of saying, you have value, you have something
Mhm.
to still give. We
Absolutely. Every person living with dementia still has something to give and has
Mhm.
value. And too frequently, I think people, are just trying to cope with the day to day, that they forget, because quite frankly, it is easier. It is easier to just do it yourself, right? It's
Mhm.
easier for you to put up the laundry. It's easier for you to put the dishes away or whatever, or they can only do one part of it. So it's like, why let them do that one part? I am very excited to announce this next part of our journey together. Once a month, on a Thursday evening, I'm going to do a segment called Ask the Dementia Coach, where you can actually come into a coaching session with me and other people if they register for the same time, so you can feel what it feels like to actually have dementia coaching. The reason I'm doing this is because I know so many of you guys are struggling on your own and may feel like you're at the end of your rope. And in order to help serve you better, I wanted to open up this opportunity once a month for you to register for a free Ask the Dementia Coach segment. Like I said, it will be Thursday evenings, once a month, 6 o'clock Eastern Time in the evening. And the segment is called Ask the Dementia Coach. So if you're interested in signing up for that, the link will be in the show notes below. And I look forward to seeing you on one of these special sessions. But I always remind myself, humans are made to do things. We're made for connection, we're made for relationship, and we're made to work. That's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to do things. And then I always think about, people and I understand, there are certainly people who need to be in a facility for a variety of reasons, but just actively engaging a person still in meaningful activity is so valuable for them as well as for the person who is the family caregiver. I'll use my mom as an example. She has always been an artist, and she just one day stopped. She just stopped drawing, stopped painting. And it was so, we weren't living here, so I didn't notice it until later. And one day I'm like, Mom's not doing any of that stuff anymore. But about 3 months ago, she just all of a sudden started back up again. I have no reason. I have no idea why. I don't know what started it, what precipitated it. But she's like, I want some pastels. I'm like, all right, let me go grab some, So bought her the stuff. Every time I go, she shows me what she's made. and she's re-engaged in her environment and doing something. So, it's I really appreciate that about you, and specifically the story about Walter, because yes, 30 years ago we got away with stuff like
I know.
now we'd be in big doo doo. But you and I are about the same age, so I know when that around about when that occurred. We could still get away with a lot of things that we wouldn't have been able to get away with now. But
Right. I have a
it's
question for you.
yes.
So in care communities, oftentimes we see, activities directors and coming up with some wonderful engagement ideas. And do you feel as though that some of our residents, because when I was working during the pandemic, I worked in an assisted living facility, and we also had memory care, but I was in the selling assisted living,
Mhm.
moving people in because they needed help during that time, and so do you think that people don't engage in activities because it doesn't speak to what their past interests were?
Mhm.
Like, would it be better if it was like something like the accounting gentleman? Like,
Yeah.
here's an activity of adding things up for us.
I think one of the biggest things that I think still has to change in the senior industry is, and I get why it is the way it is. So I'm not pointing fingers at the
Sure.
industry at all. There are so many rules and regulations that you have to have activity calendars and the time, and people need to come, and it's very prescriptive. It's very, you do this at this time. uh, I think if we could get to a point where activities are more spontaneous,
Mm.
um, true activity engagement when things are occurring, like the maintenance guy facilitating people to help him
I love that.
the thing,
Yeah.
right? Because there are people there that used to fix the thing,
Right.
pulling people in, and when instead of the assistants going in and making the bed, having them make the bed with the person, but the regulations are so
Mm.
stringent that it's like all the stuff like free labor, you can't have people. It's just asinine. It's just
Yeah.
stupid. So I understand why it is the way it is, because if you have if you have a calendar and people are supposed to do stuff, then the state can say, oh, we're meaningfully engaging people. But it's not an easy solution at all. But I think more spontaneous activity would truly engage people more spontaneously.
Right, right. So it'd be a mindset shift and a reframing as to
Mhm.
what activities really mean.
Yeah.
I remember when I was visiting my dad another time, I'm the fixer in my mom's home. She's now has passed as well, but my sister's my sister's, sorry, shower was broken. My dad, before he moved out, held onto the towel bar as a grab bar,
Grabber.
right? And you can imagine, pulled it off the tracks, and so I was the one who said, well, I'll fix that. And I was figuring out how to fix it, and then I had some questions. So when I visited my dad, I was like, this is what I'm thinking of doing, and I drew it out for him, and I had pictures, and I'm like, can you see, like, what this is, what my thought process is? And he actually guided me with how to fix it,
Mhm.
and I went back and I did it his way.
Because he did it so many times before.
Correct.
Yeah. So back to the Tausi.
Sure. Yes.
Tell me a little bit more of what other applications. I mean, we talked about the back, we
Hmm.
talked about the neck.
Yes.
What other ways have people creatively used? I know Christina and Cindy sometimes come up with some very creative solutions for
Yeah.
problems. Are there other applications for people? And then this is a personal question related to me because I'm a side sleeper.
Hmm.
So, how does it work for somebody who's a side sleeper?
Oh, great questions. Okay. Well, I'll start with Christina and Cindy. For those of you listening, they are the healthcare influencers on adaptive equipment and caregiving corner.
Mhm.
And they have a robust platform, and they gave Tausi their seal of approval through a really rigorous
Yeah.
testing aspect of it, which made me feel really proud that it was adjudicated to be helpful for people in need of any kind of support. So it's not age dependent. It was
Right.
started for my dad. So what I love about Tausi is that you can strap it to a chair, a lounge chair by the pool. You know, we all roll up our towels behind our neck at a pool.
Mhm.
Well, when our family vacationed in Maui, we all had Tausies on our lounge chairs, and because we use it for traveling for the airplane, because it fits it perfectly in an airplane seat, and you strap it to your headrest, not the whole seat, but the headrest, and you travel comfortably, because the neck pillows, frankly, I'm going to say it here, breaking news, they don't
They
work.
don't work.
They don't
They
work.
don't work.
No. And
No, I
so,
know that. I mean, when I use a neck pillow, I flip it up beyond my
yeah.
ears to keep my head in
Right,
support,
because
not
you
around my neck.
instinctively know that your head needs to have support from side to side.
Mhm.
So they don't work. So that's everybody at the pool. Other guests were just like, "Where can we get that?" And the hotel was just like, "Well, that's not our thing." So I started giving out cards. I had cards down with the hotel with me at that point. But so Tausi can be used on an airplane. It can be
Mhm.
used while watching TV, and your couch might be too low, so you're propping up your couch now, so you have a head and neck support while watching binging TV shows. You can attach it to a lazy boy. You can use it at some people use it at a restaurant because the chairs are not comfortable for them. It's been used in a car for traveling. One of my customers had a brain tumor, and so she
Mm.
had to go to weekly appointments, and she was on hospice, end of life, and but she still had to travel 40 minutes to one way to the doctor's appointment. And so
Mm.
in her traveling, it was excruciating pain for her. And they used
Mm.
Tausi, and she didn't cry anymore in the car because of the cushioning of it. Your head is not encased, it's wide enough. So if you're a side sleeper, which I start out on my side, you can still have that comfort and you have enough space. So as a side sleeper, you still have that gap between your neck
Yeah.
and your shoulders. So it fits perfectly in there. We have, and also what I love about Tausi, it's sustainable. It's not a single use product. It's not a neck pillow that you're going to use for traveling and unpack it and put it away.
Yeah.
You're going to then say, "Hey, I want this for my office chair. Hey, I want this on my couch. Hey, I want this in bed when I'm reading a book in bed and I'm looking for that little extra." You put your fist behind your head when
Oh,
you're
trust
reading.
me, I have that issue.
Yeah. The mini bonus pillow is exactly what you want behind your head while you're reading a book or watching, your TV from your bed if you have a TV in your bedroom. So it's something that you will find ways, because all of a sudden you realize I could be even more comfortable doing my daily activities.
Mhm.
So my customers wind up getting a Tausi for their loved one, and then they're like, "I want one for myself." Um, this product is stolen all the time by family members and people that we love. So I get, when people like reorder, I have a 25% reorder rate, because they're like, "My cat stole my Tausi, my dog stole my Tausi, my uncle stole my Tausi, my mother stole my Tausi." So it's like people are confessing to me like all these people stealing their Tausi, and it's kind of I have a lot of fun with my customers engaging with me about who's using their Tausi and who stole their Tausi. So it's one of those things that's stupid comfortable, and you can unzip the U-shaped foam insert, pull that
Mhm.
out, which is covered in an antimicrobial, antibacterial fabric, and it's a hyperallergenic foam.
Mhm.
So you just wipe that down, and then you throw the pillowcase into the washing machine.
Into the washing machine.
Yep.
Well, so for people who are interested in getting one, which should be everyone, and
Ooh.
I know what my next present for myself is going to be, where do they find it? Where's the best place for people to order it?
Oh, well, hopefully we'll have a link below on this
Correct. There
podcast.
will
So
be a link below, but like for other people who are like me, who never go to the links but always listen to the thing and
oh
then
no. Okay,
go.
fair enough. You go to tausibrands.com, Tausi brands, brands.com. And then you can look at Tausi. And also I'm going to tell your people right here, there is a discount code. I will give your listeners a 20% off. And
Oh, thank
use
you
the
so
of
kindly.
course, you can use the code comfy, the number 4, and the letter U. So comfy for you. COMFY 4 and the letter U.
That's a big deal. That's a great deal. Thank you very, very much.
Oh, you're welcome. And you can choose
I
the 4 colors. It's a luxurious chenille fabric, so it's super soft and comfortable.
Yeah, I everybody should go get one, if not for the person that they are taking care of, for themselves, because I'm going to go get myself one.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, then I want to hear your feedback about how you use your Tausi, because people
Oh,
use it all different ways.
oh yeah, for sure. I can already tell you where I would be using it: on my desk chair, which came out of the Ark with Noah. He has no lumbar support at
Oh
all.
no.
Um, watching my binge flick Hulu, Netflix stuff, because
Uh-huh.
I love watching TV. That's my secret poison. And then on my bed.
Yeah. Yeah, the
Oh,
next time you're
definitely.
cruising, I want it on every cruise ship. I would love to see it there. I think everybody deserves to be comfortable. That's really
Oh,
my
for sure.
mantra. You really we don't have to adjust something else to get used to what somebody else tells you comfort is. You already know instinctively what makes you feel comfortable.
Oh,
And Tausi is the
absolutely.
tool to help you just be comfortable in any situation. My straps are long enough on my horizontal for a hospital bed.
Wow.
Yeah. So we have vertical, we have horizontal configurations of Tausi. I've got a new product that'll be coming out, which will be a compact Tausi, which is the same comfort but less pillowcase. So
Hmm.
our Tausies fit a standard size pillow at this point.
Wow. What an ingenious solution to a very practical problem. We started the episode with talking about walking in. You said you walked into your mom all the way bent over 90 degrees
Mhm.
at the middle, just because she had slumped over. So it's a very practical thing that people have to if when you've seen someone like that, exactly what it looks like. And then for anybody who has a crooked back, like a kyphotic back, I promise you this thing will be the solution for that particular problem. I
Oh,
can tell you that already.
well, thank
I-
you for teaching me that.
Oh, you're very welcome. I'm surprised Cindy and Christina didn't say anything about that, because so we're going to end here in a second, but we had Christina and Cindy on an episode a couple of weeks ago, and one's a physical therapist. I can never remember who. One's a physical therapist, one's a speech therapist, and I'm an OT. And when we get together, we always talk about it, that we see the world very differently. And
Mhm.
so I'm halfway in between. OT is typically halfway between PT and speech. So we
Oh.
just see it very, very uniquely. Each of us have a different. And so that was what popped into my mind.
Yeah, I love that, because my goal really with Tausi is to free up caregiving's time. So
Mhm.
when you see somebody looking comfortable, you'll have better engagement with somebody, because you're not kind of like internally frightened to be around them because they look in a painful
Uncomfortable.
situation. So now you're getting better engagement. Caregivers in facilities are no longer having to put roll towels underneath somebody's, you know, under their arm, prop them up, because they will slump over. Your body weight will fall when you fall asleep,
Mhm.
and that will take you down. And you can't always be in bed, when you're all day long. So why not have the comfort with you that can strap to a wheelchair, a lazy boy, a lovely chair? It's on
Mhm.
its own. So if anybody has any questions, definitely contact me at tausibrands.com or hello@tausibrands.com. I will be happy to answer any questions.
Well, thank you so much. And what a generous gift it is to give everybody a 20% discount. We hadn't discussed that beforehand, so that is super, super sweet. Thank you so very,
Oh,
very
you're
much.
welcome.
And
Thank you.
we will have to do this again when you bring out a new product.
I love it. I love it. Thank you. And remember, comfy for you,
Yep.
for your listeners.
And we will put that in the show notes for sure. And thank you for listening to today's episode of Dementia Caregiving for Families. And I hope everybody goes and gets their Tausie pillow.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for joining me today, Success Seeker. I pour my heart and soul into this program to serve you. You can serve me by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts. And join our free Facebook group, Dementia Caregiving for Families. It's a positive and proactive space to navigate dementia caregiving together. Get practical tools and find support, but without the verbal vomit. Be a part of our community where we seek to find peace of mind and ease, despite a dementia diagnosis. So join today and see you next time as our flight takes off.